Hello everyone, welcome to the Gemini Lunar Eclipse happening November 30th, 2020 at 1:29 a.m. Pacific Time. This is normally a live streamed event where I get to interact with you guys and you guys can ask me questions. However, because this is this is a penumbral lunar eclipse, so it's a little itty bitty baby eclipse. But because this is such an important month for humanity and for everything and for the times, I wanted it to be really, really perfect and really nice for you to observe and learn. So feel free to continue and chat in the chat on the sidebar and sit back and enjoy the show. This full moon penumbral lunar eclipse, and the penumbral part, the little itty bitty part of it, just has to do with that it's just not as close to the north node that it will be, and that the solar eclipse in a couple of weeks is. So this is happening at 8 degrees 37 minutes of Gemini, and it forms an opposition. That's what creates this full moon and this lunar eclipse to the sun at 8 degrees of Sagittarius. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is the most defining thing of this lunar eclipse. The moon is not so heavily aspected by other planets, meaning that the moon is not really connecting, having a relationship with other heavenly bodies, so much so as with Neptune. And Neptune will also figure very prominently in the solar eclipse of December 14th. So the sun and the moon are in this opposition. They're both T-squaring Neptune. You guys are going to see my crazy notes in a second. So if you look here, this is I'm trying to do this backwards. This is Neptune, moon, sun, and they're in opposition. They form this T-square over to Neptune. And what that creates is a lot of tension that Neptune's receiving from both the sun and the moon, both luminaries. So what does this mean? So first of all, let me back it up like a second because I'm so excited. So this eclipse is going to bring about a big reveal. It's going to reveal. This is the time when secrets come to light, truths come out, and there's drama at eclipse time. Eclipse season is always the drama time because eclipses have a way of speeding up events. So if you were planning to move in 6 months, you're going to move next week. If you were planning to start a new job next year, boom, you're having to move all your stuff into a different position next week. It's just, eclipses are those life-changing events where people get divorced, get married, have children, bury relatives, move across the country, change careers, start new jobs, maybe buy motorcycles or whatever. And so this one in Gemini is speaking to our need to change, to adapt. We want mental agility at this point. Gemini is the sign of mental agility and being able to be really smart, have two thoughts at the same time in the same brain, and still be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. There's this, now Gemini is also the sign of the twins, so there could be two paths here. There could be two options that you have in front of you where you have to choose, or maybe one is chosen sort of for you, where one is, now it's a lunar eclipse, so it is an ending. It is an ending of something, and because it is in the sign of Gemini, I really do feel like it could be, I'm calling this like a little crisis, but like a mind trick and a little crisis. So I feel like it's bringing about an ending of any issues that you've had in your perceptions, in your mental faculties regarding wherever this is happening in your life. And if you're a patron, then you know that you're going to get the 12 sign breakdowns plus tarot for every single sign is going to get the lowdown on how this is affecting you personally. So make sure to watch for your sun, moon, rising if you join us over there. So this quick moving, sudden change is happening very likely in the mind, but it could also be, like I said, happening in your real physical day-to-day life. And you may just need to adapt very quickly to changing circumstances and situations, either due to information that comes to light or due to your own realizations about things. You could adopt a new perspective. You could even delete a former perspective that you had. One of the great things that I like about Geminis is that they can kind of flit, to different flowers and different ideas and different thoughts without really holding on to any one thought. They're not married to one perspective, not married to one thing. That's more Sagittarius, where Sagittarius can be a little bit more dogmatic. And that is where the South Node is, and that's where our sun is. So the focus, you've been very likely focusing in some area of your life, the Sagittarian area of your life, and there could be a little bit of a concern of poor judgment, which is a Sagittarian thing, and restlessness, another Sagittarian thing. And the thing with Sagittarius energy, and I love Sag, I have my Venus in Sag, so, all my love to my Saggies, is that you could be a little, just like Gemini is supposed to be very open-minded, very open to and wanting to receive a lot of information. Gemini is very curious, a very childlike sign, wants to just soak up information and learn new things. And to be able to learn new things and understand and comprehend new things, you have to be open to considering things, open to considering possibilities. Sagittarius on the darker side can be a little bit egotistical, where I'm not even going to consider that. I'm going to be dogmatic about what I think is what I think, and that's kind of it. I've already expanded. I already know. So the higher side of Sagittarius is to cultivate faith, to cultivate belief, to cultivate the absolute widest, most expansive viewpoint possible, where Gemini is about the narrow, what's in my near environment, what's right close to me. And, that's why Gemini can compartmentalize. The way I see Gemini is like either spices or those library catalogs where there's all those little squares or little drawers. There's that scene in J. Edgar Hoover where he takes Naomi Watts' character to this big library, and it's the first catalog. It's not the actual, he takes her to a big library and he gives her a book, and he says, okay, tell me, the author or whatever. And he goes to, it takes him like 10 minutes to find the corresponding card, but it's analogizing what he wants to do. He's explaining to her what he wants to do for human fingerprints, and to catalog human fingerprints, and to be this crime solving connected. Now, let's not get I don't want to get political here. I'm not making a political statement. I'm just giving an example of how I'm seeing Gemini energy. So Gemini energy is kind of like that to me, where Gemini holds all the catalogs, all those little cards, and doesn't blend them, doesn't judge them, not supposed to anyway. And so that Sagittarius energy is more of I'm going to reconcile all this information and make it fit together, and then make a judgment on it. That's the judgy, that's a judgy area. Libra gets a bad rap for being real judgy too, but the judgments that happen in Sagittarius get played out in authority and enforced in authority in Capricorn. I know, that's why Capricorn, we can have issues with authority. That's because it's not judicious. It ain't right. It ain't right. Anyway, so for this lunar eclipse, it's a baby little penumbral lunar eclipse, but it's still an eclipse. So there is something ending. It's either an option ending, a path ending, or a perception that's ending, where you just have to adapt. You have to go with the flow here, and you have to stay open. You want to concentrate on staying open. The North Node, you want to channel that North Node energy and try to stand on the Sagittarian South Node energy as a basis, as a foundation. So I spoke about the pitfalls of that Sun in Sag and that South Node in Sag. You want to focus on where you are right now, because Sag can be focusing on faraway fields, the grass is greener on the other side, oh, it's so much better over there, you know, la 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 la. And the point is to expand the consciousness here. So you want to stand on being grateful for where you are or what's near you or what's already kind of in your life. And then you want to stay open to receiving new information that this Gemini lunar eclipse is going to bring you. Focus on increasing your versatility with a positive attitude too. Gemini, very positive sign. If Gemini energy is not positive, it's probably, they're probably linking more of that, the lower Gemini energy, which is very superficial and very, like I said, flitting from one thing to another, and not like in a happy, positive way, more in a judgy, even self-judgy type of like, I don't care kind of way. So you can care and still compartmentalize and still stay open to information. So just try to, self-awareness is going to be like the one deciding factor of how this goes for you. How self-aware you are from now till the end of the year and the beginning of the year is going to determine like how competent you are at making these big decisions, because eclipse time is the time of big decisions. We had 3 in the middle of the year and now we're back. So, and what I mean by the self-awareness is bringing us right back to Neptune, because like I said, both of these lights are forming very tense angles. And what that means is that the relationship between these luminaries and the planet Neptune is under strain. It's a tense vibration. It's a connection that is dynamic. So there's a lot of energy, but if you don't know how to steer it, it'll be more controlling you, and it'll be happening to you in very like outside events. That's another thing about eclipses, is that they happen and they usually take the form of outside events and outside things and what other people are saying and doing, like happening to us, especially at lunar eclipses. Solar eclipses, we may have more agency and inspiration. So Neptune is currently in Pisces, and that's the rulership, meaning that this Neptune is extremely strong in Pisces. And now Neptune has recently gone direct. So the 4 or 5 months that Neptune was retrograde, the effects were more internalized, and now they're back out into the world. Neptune is all about illusion, delusion, fantasy, romance, deception, creativity, glamour, fears, paranoias, irrationality, hypochondria. I mean, it's just perception. It goes on and on and on. And all those things may sound unrelated. Like if this is like your first astrology video ever, it may all sound unrelated, but it's all coming down, all boiling down to perception. Neptune is a really, really strong influencer in how we perceive and experience life. Astrology shows us how every single one of us is experiencing life in a very different way. So Neptune is also a dissolver of the ego, a dissolver of boundaries, a dissolver of personality. Neptune really wants you to go spiritual, especially Neptune in Pisces wants you to, where Sagittarius wants you to expand your mind, expand your belief, expand your faith. Neptune wants to expand you. Neptune in Pisces wants to expand you from the inside, from the spiritual expansion. So we have very mental, cerebral energy here, totally squaring this very spiritual, dreamy, otherworldly energy that wants to dissolve. So this illusion, delusion, it's very strong. The negative aspects of Neptune are very strong if you're living in your personality. If you're living in your ego, you could feel lost, fearful, afraid, faithless. And this is also the area of drugs and alcohol abuse. So first, you'll see that where people are not like being able to handle reality, and they're very South Node in Sag, where they do want to escape. There are different types of escapism. Sagittarius escapism is more like real, where they want to like get on a plane and go somewhere. The Neptune in Pisces escapism is drugs, alcohol, daydreams, fantasies, which is why it's so great for creativity. Anyway, so if you're living in your soul, if you're really connecting to that spirituality, you can steer this, and that's why the self-awareness comes in, because any unrecognized subconscious feelings will be damaging at this time. It would be very damaging at this time, and you must discern and use discretion in every single thing moving forward. Like any big decisions you're making, you really want to ask yourself, what is my own motivation? Why do I really want this? Or why don't I want this? Or why do I think this way? Everyone has confirmation bias. Everyone's brain uses cognitive bias as a shortcut in our thinking. And to be self-aware of what they are and how they're working, such as the confirmation bias, where we're just looking for information that affirms what we want to believe, or the negativity bias, where anything that we take in, we have a negative spin on it. We have to check. We have to check it. We have to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. So that's going to be the game changer here for everyone, and you're going to be able to see that who's really spiraling out of control and getting lost in a Neptunian haze, and who's maybe taking up meditation or implementing a new meditative technique, or who's really calming it down. It's going to be kind of one or the other here, because there's this mental stress happening with this lunar eclipse, and it's going to make everyone kind of tweet. There's other stuff happening here. So this T-square can only be balanced by focusing on filling in the empty leg. So I showed you how it's kind of like this, the T-square. So you want to go like up here, like wherever the missing, to complete it. So in this case, it's Virgo. You want to be more Virgo, and you want to, it's like this, like it would be really helpful for you to get out of your head, especially if you're really fearful or struggling or insecure, or just whatever's going on mentally and spiritually that is making you feel very ungrounded. You want to ground yourself. You don't have to figure all this out right now. Like, these eclipses take 6 months, up to 6 months to fully... I need a word. Give me a word. Unfold. Thank you. So what you can do in the meantime to kind of get you there is engaging in activities and engaging in daily routines that are nurturing, that are healthy. Virgo is the vitamin taker of the zodiac, that is like, I'm going to have like all these different vitamins. I'm going to wake up early, go to bed early. I'm going to, be very disciplined in my workout routines and in my stretching and in my nourishment of my body, and get all my work done and dot my I's and cross my T's. And that will go a long way in helping you feel, number one, healthier and just feeling better, staying hydrated. And number two, feeling like you have more control over your life, because this is kind of energy, this eclipse energy and just energy can make us feel like we're out of control. It can make us feel like it's just whipping us around. And what we do in response to that, and in response to that perception, to make us feel like we're back in control, can be very damaging to our psyches and to other people. So anyone trying to control you from now till the end of December and going into January, because of another aspect I'm going to talk about, that's a red flag, that they are not in control of the energies that they're channeling, and they're actually feeling extremely insecure if they're trying to control you. So yeah, this Virgo energy is how you're going to settle yourself down, settle into your body, and settle into a more confident state where you're focusing on what's right in front of you, the food right in front of you, the coffee right in front of you, what's physically, literally right in front of you, the body right in front of you, and that will help. Okay. So there's a couple other smaller aspects going on with this lunar eclipse, and I'm looking at the moon specifically. There's a sextile to Chiron in Aries. 5 degrees Aries. And there's an opportunity for healing. Remember that healing takes the form of both pain and happiness. So this is an energy flow that is easy, and it's something coming up for the taking. And I feel like even if it's happy, there's going to be something a little bit painful about it. Chiron in Aries, well, Chiron in itself is very awkward. This is where we feel awkward. Every single one of us has Chiron in our charts, and every single one of us feels really awkward about something. And because this Chiron is in Aries, we may feel a little bit awkward about our self-assertion, our confidence levels, our egos, our like pioneering, initiating ability. But what we're here to do at this time is, at this eclipse, is to initiate our release from difficulty by solving these problems wisely and maturely and spiritually. I'll get to why in a second, but that's it. That's like the answer. Was to initiate our release from things that we are perceiving as pain, things that we're perceiving as oppression, and things that we're perceiving as negative. Because that's all Neptunian. That's all Neptunian tricks. This is the mind trick. This is a mind trick. This and the solar eclipse in the middle of December, it's like if things are sort of like shaky or negative, that's the mind trick. Because this can be channeled very spiritually and very positively with your effort, though. You have to put in the effort. Okay, let's keep going, because there's still a lot more. So, okay, that's the sextile to Chiron. There is also this really interesting semi-sextile to Uranus. Okay, sorry. Immature moment there. So this semi-sextile is really interesting because Uranus is in Taurus retrograde. And yes, next year, this is going to be difficult for the economy. It's going to be a difficult time for solidity, for anything solid and material. Like farming is going to go through difficulty. This is because Jupiter and Saturn are about to march into Aquarius and kick off a new age, the age of Aquarius. So the past 240 years, we've been having these major big conjunctions in earth signs, and now they're going to be happening in air signs. So everything is shifting into digitization, but let's bring it back to what's right in front of us right here. So this lunar eclipse is forming the semi-sextile to Uranus and Taurus retrograde. So there is... Okay, I want you to look for this. I really want you to look for this. You may not have to look very far or very deeply, but just check. The moon, the lunar eclipse semi-sextiling Uranus reveals an unseen financial opportunity. Because this connection, it's a smaller connection, but it's like if you look for it, you could find it. And with Uranus involved, it could be a surprise. It could be something very unexpected that comes to light. With Uranus and Taurus, that's the financial part. That speaks to value and what you can appreciate. So there can be something here that you appreciate, that you can learn to appreciate, even in regards to how you earn money, how you earn a living, how you create value for yourself. Okay, so that's just like a little something there. There is also this quincunx to Venus. So this quincunx to Venus at, let me see, 10 degrees of Scorpio. Oh boy, this is about regenerating and transforming our love nature. There's an awareness here that determines our quality of choice in regards to our ability to give and receive love, to get at the truth of love, to understand love, and not just love itself, but what we enjoy, what we like, what we want, what feels good to us. I want to bring you back to the harrowing 4-month retrograde of Venus in Gemini, because Gemini retrograded over this. So Venus entered the retrograde shadow April 9th at 5 degrees Gemini. She officially stationed retrograde May 13th at 21 degrees Gemini. Then she went direct on June 25th at 5 degrees Gemini, exactly where this lunar eclipse is happening. And then she left her shadow on July 29th at 21 degrees Gemini. So this 4 months show that this was like lockdown period, where everyone was having to go and see, like, do I love where I live? Do I love, I think one of my lunation presentations was like, do you love your roost? And that's what it was. It was like, wow, Venus going retrograde during that time made everyone, every single one of us, reassess what we love, what we enjoy, what we want, what even feels good for us. This is when everything was like, oh my God, domestic abuse on the rise. Oh my God, people getting divorced. Oh my God, that's when it's like when everyone was made to, for the first big time, and everyone was freaking out, made to stay home. We had to look really close at our homes, at the people that we're choosing to live with, our families, the conditions. And it's like you had up until like that one moment to sort of get everything together and in place. And it was like when that moment came and we had to stay home, you were just like smacked with, oh, this isn't what I wanted at all. This is not what I wanted. Oh no. And that's how the retrograde went, is like, I want to redo this. I don't want to live here. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live with this person. I don't want to be married to this person. I don't want this. There's a lot I want to change. And that's what that Venus retrograde period was. And I feel like this lunar eclipse on that spot, I feel like this is when we can process it. Because those 4 months, that was us living it. That was us experiencing it. So from then till now, things have been like changing and like all this stuff happening, and there's more changes now. So it's like you could have experienced all of that those 4 months, and then from July 29th until now been thinking about what you want to change and trying to make it happen and finding delays and obstacles and frustration. But this eclipse and the one next month can accelerate some of those just new decisions that you wanted to make that you weren't able to like really implement or make before, as well as finish processing some of that, like, I don't want to say trauma, but like just the realization of all that stuff hitting you. And integrating some of that, because also this same Venus that is now in Scorpio, and she's going over territory that Mercury retrograded in. Yeah, I know it's been crazy. It's been crazy. She's actually forming this opposition to Uranus at the time of this lunar eclipse, and what that means is this is shocks. This is shocks, twists, turns, sudden breakups, sudden coming togethers. You're able to overcome some hindrance, some blockage, something that was holding you back in the love department. That's such a like weird way to say it. I want to say something. You can be catapulted out of a pattern or an energy structure or an energy pattern that you've been wanting to get out of for a while. It could happen like that. Any progress you want to make, anything you want to do could happen like that. You can really make some headway here with Uranus, with this opposition. And it can come through this is funny because it can come through the other person or another person, but you can be someone else's other person. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like funny, I feel. So with this opposition to Uranus from Venus in Scorpio, you're free. Because Scorpio doesn't want anything less than authentic, doesn't want anything less than absolute authenticity and what's real. Uranus and Taurus is just shaking it all up. Like taking, you know, a snow globe and just totally mixing it all up. But then you have a beautiful snowy landscape. Okay? Okay, so that's that. That's Venus. That's Uranus and Taurus. The next thing I want to talk about are these, I'm calling them smoldering sesquiquadrates. Say that 10 times fast. There's two. There's the moon to Jupiter and there's the moon to Pluto. So this is funny because when, like, not all Geminis perceive me as like really like positively, and it's really funny because I feel like it's because of this aspect, this connection, this sesquiquadrate, because this is tense, but it's subtler. It's a very subtle tension. I really find that it's the Gemini that takes their mental tension and looks for answers and looks for something more that get me very that receive me way more positively. Otherwise, there's this Gemini response to me that's more like dismissive, or I would just say like more dismissive. And it's because this sesquiquadrate, it's tension to work and to learn from. It's a conflict that's less apparent on the surface, so it's a lot easier to suppress, and it's more difficult to learn from the challenges because it's more subtle, but it's there. but it's there. So this is an energy, and this is happening at this eclipse because we have this moon to Jupiter, this moon to Pluto. So this full moon lunar eclipse, it's like it's showing you this big bright light on something that you would prefer to ignore with Jupiter and Pluto and Capricorn. And I totally get it. Like if you're a Gemini, Sun, Moon, Rising watching, I totally get it. Like if I were you, I would be like, blinders, because Capricorn is like, I'm like the daddy, you know? It's just, I get it. I totally get it. Okay. So, this is something you'd prefer to ignore. However, that relief is short-lived. So if you keep on trying to dismiss this energy, it'll just keep coming back. This is like a stubborn, long-term problem. The sesquiquadrate. It's a long-term, it's like an issue. It's an issue. So, what Capricorn wants you to do, the Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and this is like the point of immense everything right now in astrology, and the current astrology of the times is to discipline ourselves. And like Gemini doesn't want to discipline. Gemini just want. This is literally, okay, this isn't happening like directly exactly to Saturn, but it kind of is, because Saturn is right there with Jupiter and with Pluto, so it kind of is still. Literally the child eater. Saturn is literally Kronos, like I eat my children, and Gemini is literally the child. The twins, the two children. So there's like this whole thing, and then we have Jupiter and Hades, and so it's like there's this whole thing playing out here about eating your children, about power, brothers, the whole. Okay, I'm not going to get into like that whole long story. I'm just going to say that we're here to surrender. Okay, what is death? Let me just get to Pluto a little bit here. Hades, what is death? Death is surrendering energy in a form. Okay, so I am energy in this incarnation, in this meat suit, in this flesh body. I'm a soul inhabiting this little home of a body. And when I pass, when I go through that transition, I will be surrendering my energy in this form that you know as Madame President, Natalee, and consciousness will move forward and continue. I'll still see, I'll still think, I'll still have opinions. I just won't have this form anymore. This form, it just won't be like this anymore. Same with you. Okay, so this Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and Capricorn, this is the concentrated massing of energy. This is a critical point right now, especially because we're about to move into this whole new age. So the fact that this lunar eclipse says co-quadrate to these energies, it's like you have to deal with this now. Like you have to integrate, you have to you don't have to, but like see what happens, because there's going to be a snapback with Saturn moving into Aquarius, because Saturn was already in Aquarius earlier this year. And there's a snapback here, especially if you have your Saturn in Aquarius and you're about to enter your Saturn return again. You already entered it earlier in the year when Saturn dipped into Aquarius and then dipped right back out. That's what brought about social distancing. And we're going to see a lot more of that in the future, where we just don't need to. And okay, just a little bit of a digression. Go ahead and skip this if you want. But Saturn in Aquarius is going to be showing us that we need to be more discriminatory, Saturn, with our attention and energy, and who we share energy with and where we put our energies. And like Aquarius is about being able to connect with people, with like the people on a broader level, in a big groups of people, but not so personally. It's a very dispassionate, not very personal energy in this sign. And Saturn is ruler of Aquarius, also rules Capricorn. So Saturn went into Aquarius earlier this year. Now Saturn's going to go back and stay in Aquarius this time. So there's a snapback effect happening. So if you're going into your Saturn return, your first or your second. And with Saturn, this is like an astrological truth. It hurts more the second time. The door is going to hit you on your way out. So it's like, if from then till now, and if you hadn't, you got to take the Venus retrograde. Look back April 9th to July 29th, especially if you're a Gemini, especially if you are a Sagittarius, especially if you are, let me see who else. Especially if you have your Saturn return, if you're coming into your Saturn return, Saturn in Aquarius. You really want to pay. You really want to okay. So that was kind of a digression, not too bad. This says good quadrate. So this, okay, but here's the benefit of Saturn moving into Aquarius this time in December, is that he'll have Jupiter with him. Jupiter is not very strong in Capricorn right now. Like if you have your Jupiter in Capricorn, your Jupiter return was probably stunted or wanting or underwhelming. Okay, the sun is in Sagittarius right now, and Jupiter, the planet that rules Sagittarius, is in Capricorn. So I'm jumping all over. I'll get back to that. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Let me finish the sesqui quadrate. I'm trying to stay focused here. So you want to be basically the name of the game with the sesqui quadrate, that whatever long-standing issue you've been ignoring, that you've been really stubborn about it, and you know yourself. This is self-awareness again. You got to know yourself. What have you been stubborn about between Capricorn and Gemini in your chart? Because this full moon lunar eclipse, and this is just a baby one. we're going to have 2 years of these eclipses on this axis between Gemini and Sagittarius. So you're going to, I'm trying to get you a head start here so that the next, every 6 months, these eclipses, they push you forward. I'd rather you be pulled forward and lean into the growth and lean into the difficult energies and work with the dynamism rather than be dragged by the universe, because oh my God, we're finishing up these we're done with these Cancer Capricorn eclipses. So I've already been dragged. Capricorns and Cancers have already been dragged by the universe since 2017. Like, oh my gosh. Well, that was, I'm digressing again, sorry. So, you want to lean into the conflict, lean into this the internal conflict, not like conflict with other people. You want to learn from the challenges. I know you want to ignore it, but that's not going to work. Remember, any relief will be short-lived. This is why I call them smoldering sesquiquadrates. It's going to smolder. It's not going to feel, you're not going to make it feel better. It's not going to feel better if you ignore it. If you try to do the Gemini thing where you compartmentalize and you keep them like separate, and you keep them separate, that's not going to work. This is one of those moments over, and when we have these eclipses in Gemini, it's going to sort of, this is like when someone with like multiple personalities, like when they have to meet or when they're forced to meet, or that's kind of the energy that I get with this. And when I was meditating on this energy, I'm going to save this for Patreon. We're going to do a tarot spread on this. But what she showed me was that game where you do like, it's just like that thumb game, and then you go, and then like someone puts their thumb over the other person's thumb. That's what she showed me for this Gemini solar eclipse, and we're going to do tarot spread on that in the collective reading on Patreon after this. But all you need to know is that yes, 2 things can be true at once. There has to be a moment where you can integrate those 2 things that are true at once. And if you can't reconcile, and when they both meet, if you can't delete one of those things, or if you can't integrate them both fully, you have to be prepared to delete. That's kind of where Pluto comes in with this being disciplined enough to surrender energy in a certain form. So this smoldering sesquiquadrate, you can delete this disruption, or you can delete this uncomfortability by leaning into it and moving forward and being disciplined and real with yourself and fully self-aware. Okay, that was a lot on the sesquiquadrate. Really quick, this is kind of a weird little thing. I just discovered this, just learned about this, and I just wanted to share it with you. So, the sun at 8 degrees of Sagittarius is literally 1 degree off, having moved past this exactitude formed an antitia. Or, I've also heard it pronounced anticia. There's a very long explanation for what that is, and I will get into it at another time and place. But it's happening with it's basically the equal distance from Sagittarius and Capricorn to the solstice point, the solstice. So the end of Sagittarius, the beginning of Capricorn. That's really it in a nutshell. So what this is, and it's just interesting because Jupiter, the planet that rules Sagittarius, that the sun is in its fall in Capricorn. So over these next 2 weeks, we can actually see, like on the global stage, we can see maybe the fall of an important figure, bosses, CEOs, father figures, just like a reduction in power, or even a fall from grace. So I want you to be very, very, very careful of what you're doing at this time. Because if you're doing something and you're acting out of like zero self-awareness, if you're acting from your personality, from your ego, you can experience a fall in reputation or a fall from grace, or you can just, whatever you try to do from that space, the slapback is going to be horrible. Like this is even separate and worse than like Saturn re-entering Aquarius. Actually, that might be when you feel it. That might be when you start to see it and feel it. And this is a very secretive thing. Like the Antisha, the Antisea, it's a very secretive, very subtle, not it's something hidden and it's something unseen. So it could be happening right now, but you don't see it until later, or we can even see it now, but that it's like, okay, the best example of the Antisha or Antisea would be January, would be earlier in the year when it was Mars involved, when Mars was in Sagittarius at this point. And that's when we saw the very sad and unfortunate death of Kobe Bryant. And in that case, it was anything Martian. So it could have been military personnel, or it could have been, but in this case, it was athlete. It was an athlete that we just saw. And I think there were other athletes involved in that too. But that's what was happening there. And so that's like the best example that I can think of right now. But you might notice in yourself that you feel like your ego is not as strong, or that your goals are being stunted, or that your progress is being hindered in some way. And I just want you to be patient with yourself, because you don't want that to be the gateway to the Neptunian delusion and the Neptunian haze of thinking that nothing will ever go right, or thinking that progress will never happen, or thinking that it has to. Be careful of that South Node in Sag, and be careful of that Sun, because you might want things to happen a certain way. You might want things to be a certain way. You might want people to behave a certain way. And that's not realistic, but that's also not healthy. It's not healthy for you to like drive something very, very specifically, because you could be doing something that's in poor judgment. That is restlessness. You want the progress for the sake of progress. And because the Sun is trining Mars, you really might want to go and act and do and push forward. But everything in the astrology is saying to surrender and dissolve yourself in the universal solvent of Pisces, because of this T-square to Neptune, and to focus on what's right near you, what's at hand, what's right in front of you, what you can control in your immediate environment, and keep doing that internal work, so that when the time is right, when the time is better, I mean, everything's about to shift into Aquarius anyway. So these last 2 weeks, it's like closing up. There's going to be other things to deal with, by the way. There's going to be this big reveals. You might have a big reveal to tell someone something, and then that needs to be worked out and processed, very likely having to do with something that you've learned from Venus retrograde from April 9th to July 29th, and from Mercury retrograding in Scorpio, like in October, like beginning of October, all of October. I'm really excited, obviously. And so I just wanted to give you that heads up, because that's very powerful. There's something very hidden and unseen, but it's also an opportunity. It's also it's actually a pretty amazing opportunity. It's actually really, really cool. So because the Sun is in the sign of Sag, and the ruler of Sag is in Capricorn, and that's the fall, there could be a financial opportunity. And I'm connecting this sort of with this Iranian influence with Uranus retrograde in Taurus. There could be a financial opportunity hidden if you can pass the test of ego, if you can pass the test of not living in the personality. And if you can integrate these energies, if you can be disciplined in steering the concentrated massing of energy in Capricorn at a very critical moment in time, you can actually come upon a very big opportunity for your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be financial, although it really looks like that with Uranus and Taurus, and then with all this stuff in Capricorn. But you'll have to complete the mind trick in order to get there, in order to unlock it. So it's only like with the initiates. It's only if you're the initiated, if your soul is ready for this goodness, if your soul is ready for this blessing, you can pass a really, really big test here. Or you could fall from grace. Be really careful of reputation right now, because your reputation is not who you are. Your reputation is not, that's living in personality, that's living in ego. If you're doing things out of a sense of reputation, that will work against you. That will not work. That will be the fall from grace. And you can experience that now over these next 2 weeks. It could be over the next 6 months. So make sure that you are disconnecting from whatever you consider your reputation to be. I guess mine would be the weird YouTube segment. I'm just kidding. Don't take it too seriously. That's another thing too. Okay, Capricorn rules humor. So we love our jokes. We love our dark humor. So, okay, that's all I wanted to say about that. Let's talk about Mars. Now, we're almost out of the woods with Mars, but we still have the final square, the final Mars-Pluto square, which is activated right now at this lunar eclipse. Mars is trying to initiate, trying to get things done, but that square, the squares that he's still receiving ongoing for like 6 months from Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and Capricorn has been forcing our Mars energy, our sense of initiation, how we begin things, how we get things done, how we get what we want, how we express our passion, how we really drive ourselves and our lives forward. It had to be patted down. It had to be smacked down. It had to be disciplined and refined. This is my Bruce Lee aspect, where you will either come out of this on, I think December 2nd is when Mars really exits that shadow period of this energy. Fully Bruce Lee self-mastery level, like freaking Pai Mei, or you will be feeling very dejected and powerless and demoralized and like nothing ever good happens to you, and why does everything bad happen to me, and why can't I ever get what I want? You'll like dissolve into self-pity, and you'll be like lost in that haze. You'll feel like a real victim of the universe, a victim of the cosmos, a victim of life, of circumstances, of authority figures. Whereas you'll have to take this Capricorn authority energy and let it mature you, let it discipline you, let it evolve you. I feel like I'm triggering so many people when I say that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Because this is a lot of energy. This Capricorn, wherever this Capricorn energy has been happening in your life, that's a lot to deal with. That's a lot of discipline. That's being called on. But you chose to do this. You chose to be here in this incarnation right now, going through this. It's a lot of karma, a lot of karmic work that we're all like doing here. Okay, so that's Mars, and that's going to be a thing. I wrote a little. Hold on. Okay, just for a little bit of a perspective shift. The planets, and just for anyone who, like, in case it's like your first astrology video ever, planets are the energies that are operating. They're the what. The signs are the character, the how. And the houses are the circumstances, the where they're happening. So that's why it's really helpful to do the sign by sign breakdown of what to expect. And I do that over on Patreon. I think it's the Knights tier. Before the higher aspect can be reached, the personality has to be dissolved in the universal solvent. And I'm coming back to Neptune here. Sacrifice is the secret to Neptune. That's why Neptune can be the martyr. That's why Neptune can be the unwilling or the willing martyr and martyrdom. Pluto, and I'm coming back to Pluto too. Pluto is exalted in Pisces. Some people will say, some researchers or authors will say Aries. I will leave this with you, and I want you to make up your own mind. Pluto's exalted in Pisces. The highest aspect of Pluto can be realized when the personality has been dissolved. Okay? In the universal solvent of Pisces, the universal, okay, so let me say that again. The highest aspect of Pluto, Plutonian energy, Hades, death, rebirth, transformation, power, absolute power, can be realized when the personality has been dissolved in the universal solvent of Pisces. Sacrifice, surrender, letting go. Pluto is all about power and wielding power and control over the self. If you're living in your personality, you will want to control others, your life, situations. When you take the spiritual path, you dissolve your ego, you dissolve your sense of wanting to control everything. You surrender to the cosmos, you surrender to the higher purpose of your life. And that's where you dissolve in the universal solvent of Pisces. That's really the highest Piscean ideal. Illumination comes from a willingness, comes by a willingness to be a channel of energy, not the power. Okay, I'm a psychic. I channel energy. I channel the energy. I channel the power. I'm not the power itself. Because when we identify with that power, if I get up there and say, "Oh, I can do this, I can do that," that's the personality. Same with you. You are channeling power. You are channeling energies, but you're not that. That's like when I say, don't say I'm angry. You are not anger incarnate. You are experiencing anger temporarily, and then it's going to pass. You're going to let that go. But don't identify with that anger. You identify with that anger, oh my gosh, you're going to get into a whirlwind of trouble and confusion. Same thing with power. Same thing with all of this. The energy itself is always pure. It's man's use of it that determines whether the experience will be positive or negative. Once we activate energy, we come up against the law of cause and effect, which is karma, and must abide by the results. None of us escape that. All of us subscribe to that rule, to that universal law, to that truth, that universal karmic truth. So all this Capricorn energy is making us need to take responsibility for that. That's why getting what we want for the past 6 months has been really hard. Just remember that every growth, like in life, begins in darkness and grows towards the light. So don't feel weird or bad or self-judgy for yourself for being in darkness. Like, remember, I'm calling this like a little crisis due to imbalance. So the mind trick here is to not get lost in Neptunian delusion or Neptunian fears and phobias and insecurities and self-sacrifice and self-martyrdom, because you can feel that way too. You can feel like, I'm going to self-sacrifice myself and I'm in so much pain and I'm a victim of the world. The victim mentality is a very Piscean, Neptune in Pisces thing. So you're going to see that with this T-square, the strongest aspect of this lunar eclipse being activated, that it's going to be real easy for people to feel like victims. People are going to feel like you're victims. You're going to want to do things or say things or change your life in certain ways. And other people are going to make you the perpetrator. They're going to be mentally confused and not open enough. And they're going to say that you are perpetrating some harm to them. And now they're your victim. And you have to be self-aware enough and wise enough and see that red flag and just step back and not judge that person. They're going through something and they're lost and they're confused and they're projecting. Neptune also rules projecting. This is also the sign of glamour, the planet of glamour as well, because for glamour to happen, you need to be able to project on to those people. That's why Neptune and Pisces rules modeling, because that's like the perfect example of projection, where people look at ads and they just project whatever they want onto that image and it's about creating the illusion, creating that falsity, of course, for the purpose of selling stuff. But stay wise, my friends. All right, that's the mind trick. The mind trick is in creating your own idyllic home, your own idyllic fantasy, your own idyllic relationships, your own idyllic life, how you want it in your image. I want you to use this energy to really process whatever you went through from April 9th to July 29th. Really this whole year, and flush it out, because I feel like eclipses, especially a lunar eclipse about endings, is a really great energy to flush out toxins and to flush out like gross energies, so that you can be that much closer to building the life that you want. And the reality that you want, because we are all creating our own realities. That, remember what I said earlier, that astrology shows us how and where and why every single one of us has a very different experience of life. So I want you to do the mind trick. I want you to do like the reverse mind trick on this lunar eclipse, because there's a really nice solar eclipse coming in just a couple weeks. And between now and then, there's this portal that you can just like walk through. But if you're just lost and feeling lost in the Neptunian haze and feeling like a victim and feeling like everything's out of control and you're just like floating in the air, floating in space without anything anchoring you, the spirituality is the anchor. Faith and belief in your own life is the anchor. I want you to walk through it, because that's like the mind trick. Because like I said, there is an unseen opportunity here. And it's not just financial, it's value. There's something of value here that you can capitalize on. And that could be something personally meaningful to you in the form of a relationship or a job or career or lifestyle, whatever, but it's there. And with this moon connecting to Venus, the Venus opposing Uranus, and Venus is even trining Neptune. Venus is trining Neptune. So she's even, okay, Neptune's a higher octave of Venus. What does that mean? It means that it's double the vibration. It's even more powerful. And with the planets that are involved, and they're both in water signs, honestly, when I look at that, I see absolute fantasy and idealism, but in the realm of like what you love, who you love, your heart space, your heart chakra, your love frequency. There is such a really beautiful energy of compassion and enlightenment here that you can take advantage of. You could really do something that you can walk through a portal and accelerate something that feels so good to you, that is that highest ideal. And Venus has been through it this year. This is a retrograde year for Venus. She's cleaning up this she's cleaning up this Mercury retrograding through Scorpio. So Mercury's already been making you rethink certain things, like in October, right? Rethinking, reanalyzing. Actually, October was crazy. October featured that Mercury retrograde in Scorpio and those oppositions to Uranus. So beginning of October probably showed you something new and shocking and a lot to think about. And Venus is, where is she? She's Venus, 10 degree. Yeah, she's like going over that, almost like that same exact area. So there's a nice, now she's up. Yeah, she is, because now she's opposing Uranus and Taurus. So now there's this opportunity to move forward on something in a quick, fast way from maybe even the beginning of October that was sort of opening up to you with Mercury opposing Uranus and Taurus. So she's doing a lot of work right now, Venus, trying to bring you blessings, trying to bring you into the higher, literally the higher octave of love, literally the higher octave of softening boundaries and being more compassionate. Very likely, you know what you really want. You know what you really value. You know how you really want your life to be. So you have a couple of things to get through. You have the sesquiquad, you have the smoldering sesquiquadrates of something that is like annoying, irritating, something that you just don't want to, it's tension that you just don't want to deal with, that you're trying to suppress. You have the awkwardness to Chiron. So if you have to initiate anything, or if you have to, push on anything, you may feel awkward doing so. You may feel awkward, but you'll be able to do it. You'll be able to push through that one and actually do it. You might feel like, oh my God, I'm shy, but you'll be able to do it. You have the mind trick, and I want you to get through that. I mean, watch all your favorite mind trick movies too, like Christopher Nolan movies. Okay, and that totally threw me off. Sorry, I don't want to get into like movie talk now. Okay. And of course you have the Mars square Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter. Now this is a different energy than how it's been before, how it's been up until now. So you just want to do everything solution oriented. because when you are in conflict, you surrender that's when you really give your power away. So whatever you do, you want to be solution oriented, you want to be wise, you want to be very mature, and you want to have like the most spiritual high road perspective. This is the Bruce Lee moment for you, where you can be like Pai Mei and like, okay. So aside from that, okay, so that's what you have to get through. That I'm just like empowering you and imbuing you with all the. I hope I'm giving you confidence. I just want to imbue you with confidence, because I feel like a lack of confidence or self-esteem is going to be like the gateway to this Neptunian fear. Neptune is fear and irrational fear, irrational worries. So you're going to be seeing people tweaking out. People may be tweaking out to you and you're like, what? We're fine. Everything's fine. Or you're okay. So the best tool, and I saved the best for last, to get through all of this is Mercury. Mercury rules this eclipse because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. And what is Mercury doing? Mercury is the most aspected planet. Mercury is the one that is connecting with more heavenly celestial bodies than any other planet or luminary right now. Okay? Mercury is connecting to the Sun, Venus, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and Chiron, and everything indirectly. So anything I didn't name, Mercury is connecting to in an indirect way. So Mercury is sextiling Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, trining Neptune, and Chiron. It's through the power of your voice. It's through communication, honest communication, authentic communication, not based in power struggles, not trying to control a person or a situation or an outcome. That's going to move this all forward. This is how you change the level of spirit. This is how you change the level of vibration. This is how you really get what you want. So when Mars is frustrated, when you can't act, when you cannot act or do something that you want to do, you use Mercury and you talk, you communicate, you connect. It's like, okay, what is it? What is Mercury? What is talking? What is communicating? It's conveying something. What does convey mean? Let's break down the etymological meaning of convey. Convey really means to take water from like a creek and bring it over to like the campsite. You're literally conveying water, right? So with this Mercury, especially in Scorpio, perfect analogy, Natalie, woohoo, you need to take something inside of yourself and take it out through your voice and put it into someone else, or put it into your website, or put it into your social, put it somewhere to the whoever you're trying to communicate with, and get it across and really convey the meaning of what you mean. And it needs to be authentic, it needs to be real, it needs to be honest. And with Mercury already going through Scorpio, you've already been rewiring your thoughts about this. You've already been rethinking a lot of this stuff. So that's your way out of this. That's the mind trick. That's it. That's it. I hope that, I'm sure it sounds a lot easier than it's going to be to work over these next 2 weeks. But just keep yourself inspired and just replay this and replay your favorite parts and just feel confident. Try to feel confident and have that faith in your own life of where it's going, and have faith that you were here to do the karmic work, yes, to burn up this karma, because we're all here to burn up. We're all here to correct karma. We're all here to burn karma in a positive way and enjoy our good karma. And when I say good karma, or burning up negative karma, I'm talking about what we've done and the cause and effect, and abiding by the results, and having to deal with that moving forward. So the more you lean into that and the more you do that, remember, every growth begins in darkness and grows towards the light. So if you feel like you're in darkness, know that you are going to orient towards the light. That's what you're here for. That's what you want to do. Okay? I am sending you guys all of my love, all of my best photons. I want you to get through this with the mind trick, with like you know, totally confident. What is that? Totally intact and feeling really great, so that you can be in a great place to take advantage of all the cool stuff coming in the middle of December. Okay, I love you guys. Take care. And I will see you next time. Until then, my loves, many beautiful blessings, darlings, upon all of your beautiful heads. Mwah.